I think that, to start off, I do think it's overlooked. I think it's not taken seriously or as seriously as it needs to be. And I think that's a lot of that is due to, in part, of the current administration for the past 4 years. Whether that's Trump taking us out of the Paris Climate Agreement, or just calling it a hoax, or not believing science, all these things, whatever's projected to the American public, whatever's projected to people, and whatever people hear is what a lot of people are going to believe.
Depending on who you are and what kind of people you're surrounded by, it may be overlooked, because although this is like, I feel like the past few months have been a great period of social change, it's mainly been in terms of like racial equality, gender equality. Definitely those issues are all valid and deserve attention and focus, but I feel like climate change has sort of been overlooked.
I do feel like yes, it can be overlooked, and I definitely think it's really important to address, because of course it's a problem that's affecting everyone, not just people in a certain age group or in a certain area of the world. It's affecting everyone.
Joe Biden is who I believe will have more of an impact on the climate, while not as severe as the Green New Deal. Is still hyper-specific details, how funding will be used versus the Trump campaign, which has done a lot of hand waving, saying how the environment is important, but no actual evidence to back that up as to what they're going to be doing.
Definitely, without a doubt, Biden who says we're going to rejoin the agreement. And then he also has a $2 trillion plan to reach net zero emissions by 2050. I'd rather go towards that rather than a president that's saying, taking us out of an agreement that almost all the countries are in to protect the planet.
The creation of green and sustainable jobs are the thing that we need to do, because I think the big worry that a lot of people have is, oh, if we get rid of fossil fuels, if we get rid of coal and automobiles, my way of life is going to be threatened and I'm going to have to do with less. And what we need to do is create a different narrative that shows how we can live more sustainably, but still live well. And there's a lot of things that we can do.
Definitely push for change in the fossil fuel industries, because for example, like factories and large manufacturers, since consumerism, it's a problem, but it's really just stems from all of the manufacturers and industries that create these items. So somehow we need to push for change in those sectors and convert to more clean energy.
To just be aware that what they're doing right now really changes what's going to happen in the future. And even if it helps in the short run, it definitely will not in the long run.
I think in terms of the federal level, it's mainly just from my perspective, I think it would be in terms of emissions and decreasing our reliance on the fossil fuel industry. Trump, I think, has been very vocal with the coal industry, but there's definitely many other clean energy sources that we could be relying on, which would also be increasing jobs, which he claims is a priority.
He has not been successful. He has undermined and removed a lot of work that his predecessors had put in place. We've known about this issue for decades, and no administration has done enough to make progress on addressing this issue, but no one has done more to undermine any progress that we've made than the current administration.
It's pretty clear how the current Trump administration doesn't believe in science to the degree that is necessary to tackle climate change, given their response on the COVID-19 pandemic, but then also even just before that, more specifically on the environmental side, how they've rolled back dozens of environmental regulations set by the Obama administration. Repeatedly, the Trump administration has prioritized visions of how the economy will be impacted over a sustainable climate future.
It's real in that it's happening. You can't see climate change happening on a day-to-day basis. But if you look up in the long run, 20, 30 years, our entire world would have changed. And by 2035 or something, if we let what's happening now continue on, the changes will be reversible and our future generations literally have no chance. So it's just be aware and do the little things to stop it from progressing.
But in general, I think there's also a lack of environmental awareness. People don't take the problem seriously. There's environmental illiteracy. People don't understand the impacts of the problems. Biggest thing is that people don't realize how detrimental problems are because they're not directly impacted by it. But that doesn't mean that it's not getting worse. That doesn't mean that you won't eventually be impacted by it. So my biggest thing is that environmental awareness, that the lack of that is a huge problem.
I would say that we should all be asking our elected leadership at every level about their views about how they plan to address the climate crisis. It needs to be part of our everyday conversation, but it especially needs to be part of our conversation with our leaders. And so definitely in the lead up to deciding who you want to vote for, it should be a big part of the decision.
I definitely think there are a lot of steps that can be taken. We have to be careful to think about forests, not so much as a resource, but as part of our environment. And the native peoples used to do controlled burns, and we need to not be adverse to that. We need to kind of clean up our forests. Like, I do think that forest management is a piece of it, but forest protection is also a piece of it.
I would like to see done is the public that acknowledges climate change is an issue, first and foremost, and actually details concrete policies, initiatives, and broader goals and future plans that will address these issues.